Hi, I'm Manuel, and today I want to talk about the unit circle. Um, and I call this the WTF lesson because it's just like from the very beginning. If you were to ask like, well, what's trigonometry? And a lot of people would say, well, it's largely based on the unit circle. Like, okay, what the F is the unit circle? And so I'm hoping this is the best way I can explain it. What the hell is the unit circle? Let's say we took a circle. Let's just take a quarter of it because we only really need to explain it using this little quarter of the circle. And we're gonna put like a little. We're gonna put an angle inside. Like so, this makes the quarter of the circle, but the this angle is not what we care about the most. Let's say we put a line somewhere in between and we put it here. Um, maybe it's halfway through. I don't know right now, but we'll put a line there. And because we don't even really care that much right now about these lengths, we're just going to call them 1. So this is the length of 1, and if we're assuming there's a whole circle going around here, then we can also say that this is the length of 1, and this is the length of 1. So right now, that's not the most interesting part of the circle yet. Is the more interesting part is when we create another triangle, and let's say because we've made this, if we put a line that goes straight down here from this little point, and we make a line go down, okay, there's a line there. Now the question is, assuming that these are all 1, how long is this part here? And then the angle the angle that it forms. So when there's a now that we know that there's a line going from here, but it's not quite 1 because there's a gap over here now between where this came down and over here. Well, how long is that line? How long is that segment going from the center over to like where this lands at the bottom, right? And this turns out to be a really important question because if you can figure out that, you can figure out all kinds of stuff about like, a plane's flying off and what's the altitude. It gets complicated, but that's the big question, the big deep question around a unit circle is if you make this little you get this quarter of a circle, you put a line somewhere and you just say this is 1, which means that's 1 and that's 1, but how much is this and how much is this? And that turns out to be a very complicated answer, but if you can figure out that answer, you figure out lots more stuff. So there's actually one more question I'm going to add here, and that's how long is this curve? This curve exactly, could we know exactly how long it is if we were to think about that curve? And so we have a name for all of these lengths, and that's where you start to get into that complicated math. So this length here going up is sine, and we sometimes we write it like sin, but it's short for SINE. It's just we like 3 letters because it's easier to think. Maybe hey, we don't want a 4-letter word. Just, I don't know, whatever. So that's sine. So basically, sine is how high is the triangle? How high is it? That's all. That's what sine is asking. Cosine, and of course we just write it like cos, COS. We go, how long is that little segment? Doesn't go all the way to the end of the circle, but how long is it? Okay, and then radians, which we just go rad. Those are rad. It's also asking how long is this little length? Okay. We also talk about degrees, but degrees are actually, as it turns out, not as important, not as useful as these things: sine, cosine, and radian. Those are some really big measurements. So, as we draw out the unit circle, when somebody says, oh, this is the sine ratio for this line, that's what it's saying. It's like compared to 1, it's this length. Okay, and so degrees, just to give a bit of explanation in degrees, the only thing that degrees does is a bunch of mathematicians got together and said, hey, let's split up the circle into 360 pieces. 360 pieces all the way around. That's a lot of pieces. That's a lot of really like depends in slices. And they only like 360 because it's really easy to divide. Like that, you could do a lot of slices with that. But as it turns out, I mean, if you're looking for infinite number of fractions or infinite number of like little subdivisions, then 360 is just not going to do it. But it's a good place to start. Okay, so that's the reason why degrees. And so, you know, if you say 15 degrees, well, it's 15 of those 360 pieces of the circle. All right. So I have another video where I talk about how do you calculate those lines, or how do you draw it out. But that's the majority of it. You start with those three basic functions. If this is one and all the way here is one, then cosine is that length, sine is that going up, and radian is going that distance around that goes from the end over here up to where this little angle reached. The other thing I like to use myself as a memory tool is sine. I think of a sine going straight up, right? It's like, hi, I'm a sine, and that's this because it's going up. It's not going sideways. And then cosine is like coasting. All right, so coast, you're going zoom, 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 zoom. You're on a bike or something, you know. There, handlebars, chair. Coasting. Sine is standing up. Cos is coasting. I hope that explains a little bit about the unit circle. Thank you.